The rain hammered down in sheets against the windshield, each drop slicing through the silence like a warning. Emma Carter's hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled desperation, her breath shallow, her pulse pounding so loud it seemed to echo inside the car. In the passenger seat, 6-year-old Lily huddled close to her stuffed bunny, Mr. Nibbles, her wide eyes reflecting the streetlights blurring past. "Are we safe now, Mommy?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the downpour. Emma forced a trembling smile, eyes flicking between the road and her daughter's terrified face. "Almost, baby. Just a little further." But she didn't believe it. Not really.
She had no plan, no destination, only the raw instinct to run.
To get away. From him. From the house that had once felt like a home but had turned into a prison. From the man who'd promised to protect them but now talked about clearing debts and trading assets, like he wasn't speaking about real human lives. Emma had heard him on the phone 2 hours ago. She hadn't meant to. She'd gone into his office looking for Lily's school permission slip. But instead, she'd found a loaded handgun in the desk drawer, and heard Mark's voice coming from the next room. "They're perfect," he'd said into the phone, his voice cold, emotionless.
Blonde, blue eyes, fresh.
"They'll fetch top dollar." Her stomach had turned to ice. They won't resist. The mother's smart, but broken.
The kid esquier. Innocent.
She remembered stepping backward, almost knocking over a lamp in her panic. She had grabbed Lily, her purse, the car keys, and hadn't looked back. Now 2 hours later, she was speeding through the rain-drenched streets of New Jersey, heading blindly toward New York City, hoping the chaos would hide them.
Mark Collins.
Decorated NYPD detective. Her husband. The man who had once cooked her dinner after long shifts and read bedtime stories to Lily. He was the same man who now intended to sell them, to them. She didn't know who exactly. She didn't want to know. Her phone buzzed again on the dashboard. Mark.
For the 27th time.
Emma reached over and hurled the phone out the window, watching it vanish into the darkness. Lily flinched. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered, guilt slicing through her chest. "I didn't mean to scare you." "It's okay," Lily said, her small voice trembling. "I just don't want the bad man to find us." "He won't," Emma promised, though her voice cracked on the words. "He won't." The city lights of Manhattan glimmered ahead, distorted through the rain like a mirage. She had no idea where she was going, but her instincts told her she needed people, witnesses, somewhere public, somewhere he couldn't touch them. That's when she saw it.
A restaurant. Élégant.
Lit with golden chandeliers that spilled warm light onto the sidewalk. Its name glowed in cursive neon, Voluto Rosso. The street outside was lined with sleek black cars, Mercedes, Bentleys, a deep red Rolls-Royce gleaming even through the rain. Rich people. Powerful people. Maybe someone inside would help. She pulled up to the curb, hazards blinking, unbuckled Lily and wrapped her coat around the child's shoulders. "Stay close," she said, lifting her daughter into her arms. The maitre d' inside looked up as they entered, Emma soaked to the skin, barefoot, carrying a child. His polite mask faltered for a split second, then reassembled. "I'm afraid," he began. But he didn't get to finish. Lily wriggled from her mother's arms and darted toward a table in the back corner. A man sat alone, swirling a glass of red wine, his posture relaxed but unmistakably alert. He looked up just as Lily reached him. "Please help my mommy," she said, her voice cracking with desperation. "The bad man wants to sell us. He has a gun. He's going to hurt us." The restaurant fell silent. Emma rushed forward, heart in her throat. "Lily." The man's eyes shifted from Lily to Emma. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, then sharp, predatory focus. He was tall, late 30s, dressed in a tailored navy suit. His face was striking, angular jaw, high cheekbones, dark hair slicked back. His eyes were an unsettling shade of steel gray. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he rose from his chair with slow, deliberate grace, his attention locked on the soaked woman and trembling child before him. Emma opened her mouth to apologize, to explain, but nothing came out. She was shaking too hard.
The man bent down to Lily's level.
"What's your name?" he asked, his voice smooth, low, and terrifyingly calm. "Lily," she said. "My mommy's name is Emma."
The bad man's name is Mark.
"He's a police officer. But he's not a good one." The man's jaw tightened slightly. He straightened, then reached into his jacket and retrieved a phone. He didn't look at Emma, his eyes were fixed on the entrance, just past her shoulder. "Tony," he said into the phone. "We've got a situation at Voluto Rosso. 2 guests. 1 threat.
Nipped.
Dirty. Handle it quietly." Emma turned, instinctively sensing what he had seen.
Through the glass door, Mark's silhouette stood in the rain, peering inside.
She froze. Mark had followed them. The man moved fast. Faster than she thought possible. One moment he was standing beside the table, the next, he was at the door. Not rushing. Flowing. Outside, 2 black SUVs pulled up to the curb. Men in suits emerged, silent and efficient. Mark barely had time to react before he was surrounded. The man turned to Emma.
"Your husband won't be a problem tonight."
"Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. He looked at her for the first time with real intensity. There was danger in his gaze, yes, but something else.
Something cold.
Protective.
Final.
"Dominic Romano," he said simply. "And you just walked into the safest place in this city." Emma stared at him, stunned. Dominic offered Lily his hand.
"Come, piccolina. Let's get you somewhere DRY."
Lily took it without hesitation. Emma hesitated only a moment longer, then followed. She didn't know where this path would lead. But for the first time in hours, she wasn't running. She was being led, into the unknown, yes, but away from the darkness chasing them. And into the arms of a man who, while dangerous in every way, had just become their unexpected protector. Perhaps even their savior. The rain had slowed to a whisper by the time the sleek black SUV pulled away from the curb, leaving Voluto Rosso behind. Emma sat stiffly in the back seat, Lily nestled asleep in her lap, her small body finally succumbing to exhaustion. Dominic Romano sat across from them, his sharp profile lit faintly by the soft interior lighting. He said nothing, didn't ask questions, didn't offer small talk. He simply watched the rain streak across the windows, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. Emma couldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, and with it came the weight of everything she had just done. She had fled from her husband, exposed him in front of strangers, begged a complete unknown for help, and now sat in the car of one of the most infamous men in New York.
The name Romano wasn't unfamiliar.
She'd heard it before, on whispered news segments in courtroom gossip, always trailing words like alleged, connections, organized crime. But none of that had mattered when Lily had run into the restaurant, begging for help. Dominic had acted.
Fast.
Decisively. That meant something. Right now, it meant everything. Dominic glanced at her, as if reading her thoughts.
"You're safe now.
For tonight." "Thank you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "For Lily. For me." He didn't respond. Just nodded once, then returned his gaze to the window. They drove for nearly an hour, the city giving way to tree-lined roads and sprawling estates. Finally, the car turned onto a private drive flanked by wrought iron gates. Cameras tracked their arrival as the gates opened soundlessly, revealing a massive mansion nestled against a dark hill, its windows glowing with soft amber light. Dominic's estate was breathtaking. It looked like something out of a magazine, part European chateau, part fortress. Manicured gardens lined the driveway, and a stone fountain bubbled gently in the circular drive.
Emma stared, awestruck and uneasy.
Inside, the house was warm and hushed. Marble floors gleamed under dimmed chandeliers, and the air smelled faintly of cedar and expensive cologne. A tall, silver-haired man in a tailored suit waited just inside the foyer. He bowed slightly when Dominic entered. "Mr. Romano," he said. "Everything is prepared." "Vincent, this is Emma Carter and her daughter Lily. They'll be staying here for the time being. Make sure the East Wing is ready." "Of course," Vincent replied smoothly, his eyes briefly flicking to Emma and Lily, assessing, not judging.
"Welcome, Miss Carter."
Emma clutched Lily a little tighter as Dominic gestured for her to follow him up the grand staircase. They passed elegant sitting rooms, long corridors lined with art, and eventually stopped before a tall set of double doors. "This will be your suite," he said, opening the doors to reveal a space larger than Emma's entire apartment. There was a king-sized bed, a fireplace, a sitting area with plush chairs, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden. A second door led to a connecting room clearly meant for a child, already stocked with toys, books, and soft blankets. Emma stared in disbelief. You had this prepared? I don't like improvising when it comes to protection, Dominic said simply. Lily deserves to feel safe. So do you. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact, but there was something beneath it, a quiet intensity that unsettled her more than shouting ever could. He set down a bag she hadn't realized he was carrying, a duffel filled with basic necessities. Clothes.
Toiletterie.
Pajamas for Lily. How had he known? How could he have arranged all this so quickly? Emma wanted to ask, but fatigue dragged at her limbs.
Dominique glanced towards the door. Il est là tu restes.
There's food in the kitchen.
Vincent will bring anything else you need.
Emma hesitated. Why are you doing this? He paused, his hand on the doorknob. For a moment, his expression softened. Because children shouldn't be afraid in their own homes, he said. And neither should their mothers. Then he left, closing the door with a soft click behind him. Emma stood in the silence for a long moment before carefully laying Lily on the bed and covering her with the soft duvet. The little girl stirred, murmured something incoherent, and burrowed deeper into the warmth. Emma changed out of her soaked clothes, wrapped herself in a thick robe she found hanging in the closet, and sat in one of the armchairs near the window. Her mind raced. Mark. What would he do now? He wouldn't stop. She knew that much. He was too deep into whatever he was part of. If he thought she was a threat, he wouldn't hesitate to eliminate it. Her fingers trembled as she held a cup of tea Vincent had quietly delivered. She didn't ask how he knew she liked chamomile. In the quiet, she tried to make sense of Dominic Romano. The man was terrifying. Controlled. Cold. And yet, Lily had trusted him instantly. That meant something. Her daughter had always been cautious around strangers, even before Mark entered their lives. Emma remembered Lily clutching Dominic's hand without fear. It had unnerved her. She glanced around the room, her eyes finally settling on a shelf near the fireplace. Framed photographs. Not many. One caught her attention, Dominic younger, standing with a woman and a teenage boy. His expression was unreadable even then, but the boy looked happy.
Alive.
A knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door slightly, surprised to find Dominic standing there again, this time holding a plate of food. You didn't eat, he said. I wasn't hungry. You need to stay strong.
Lily need you.
His tone wasn't kind, but it wasn't cruel either. Just direct. Honest. She stepped aside, and he entered, setting the plate on the table. Emma couldn't help asking, do you have kids? No. You're good with her. She reminds me of someone, he said shortly, then added, my nephew. He was 8. Bright. Curious. Killed in a crossfire 4 years ago. Wrong place. Wrong time. Emma's heart clenched. I'm sorry. Dominic's expression didn't change. It was a lesson.
One you won't forget.
Silence stretched between them. Emma looked down at her hands. Are we really safe here? As safe as you can be. Mark Collins is dangerous, but not untouchable. You knew his name, she said quietly.
Before he told you.
I've been watching him for months. Emma stiffened. Why? Dominic looked at her. Because I suspected what he was. And I suspected he'd eventually turn on you. You were watching me too? Yes. Her breath caught. Why? I monitor people who come too close to threats. You weren't supposed to get hurt. You were supposed to be left alone. Emma stood, suddenly tense.
You spied on me.
I protected you, he said simply.
No you used me.
Dominic's eyes darkened, but he didn't raise his voice.
You think you'd be here now if you hadn't intervened?
You think Mark would have spared you? Emma's fists clenched.
You don't get to act like a hero. You're a criminal.
He didn't deny it. I've done things, he said.
Things you won't défend.
But I don't hurt children. And I don't tolerate men who do. She stared at him, breath shallow, heart racing. He was dangerous. She knew that. But for reasons she didn't understand, she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Dominic turned to go. You should sleep, he said. Tomorrow, we talk about how to make you disappear, properly. The door closed behind him.
Emma stood there, feeling something shift inside her.
Not fear. Not trust. But the first flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Control. And maybe, just maybe, a spark of hope. Morning came quietly to the Romano estate. Thin light spilled through gauzy curtains, casting soft patterns on the wooden floor. Emma awoke in the oversized bed with a rare moment of peace. Lily was still asleep beside her, curled around Mr. Nibbles, her small face relaxed for the first time in days. Emma didn't move. She watched her daughter breathe, steady and slow, and tried to hold on to the silence. But her mind refused to rest. Questions buzzed at the edge of her consciousness like a swarm of hornets. About Mark. About Dominic. About the future. Eventually, she rose and dressed in the simple but comfortable clothes that had been laid out for her. A soft knock on the door broke her thoughts.
Vincent.
Mr. Romano is in his office, he said politely. He asked to see you when you're ready. Emma nodded, following him down a long corridor that twisted past art-lined walls and velvet drapes. Dominic's office was tucked into a quiet wing of the house. Inside, it was exactly what she expected: clean, sharp, minimalist. Black leather chairs, dark wood shelves, and a desk that looked like it had been cut from a single tree. Dominic stood behind it, sleeves rolled up, studying something on a laptop. He looked up when she entered. Morning. Emma sat, straight-backed.
You wanted to talk?
Yes. About Mark.
And about you.
Dominic pushed a folder toward her. Inside were surveillance photos, Mark meeting with men in unmarked cars, exchanging envelopes, shaking hands in dark corners. There were transcripts of phone calls, bank statements showing deposits far beyond what a detective should earn, and photos of girls, young, terrified, some barely older than Lily, being escorted into vans. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. This is what he's involved in, she whispered. Dominic nodded. He's a buyer. A broker. He identifies women, mothers, runaways, victims, packages them for export. He's been working with the Costello ring for over a year. Costello? She asked.
Human Trafficking Organisation. East Coast.
Based in Miami. They've expanded into New York through law enforcement and port security. Mark is their key in the NYPD. Emma closed the folder, fingers trembling. He killed my husband, she said suddenly. Didn't he? Dominic didn't look away. Yes. Brian Carter was building a case. He didn't know it, but he'd stumbled onto the Costellos. Mark sabotaged the investigation from inside. When Brian wouldn't stop, he cut the brake line in his car. Emma pressed her hand to her mouth, shaking. I thought it was an accident. Everyone said it was an accident. It wasn't. Dominic leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm. I didn't tell you this to hurt you. I told you because you deserve to know what you're running from.
Emma's voice cracked.
So what now?
Juste disappear?
Hide forever. You have two options, Dominic said. Disappear with Lily. I can help you vanish. Or stay and fight, with me. Emma looked at him, eyes narrowed. Fight how?
I take down the Costello ring. You help expose Mark from the inside.
Testify. Provide what only you know. She stood. That's not justice. That's suicide. Dominic didn't flinch.
It's dangerous.
Yes. But Mark isn't going to stop. Even if you run, he'll find you eventually. They always do. Emma sat down again, her hands clenched.
Why do you care?
Dominic was silent for a moment. Because 4 years ago, a boy I loved like a son died in a crossfire I created. I pulled the trigger on a man who deserved it, but I didn't see the child behind him.
My sister never forgave me. J'avais forgiven myself.
Emma looked away. You're trying to make it right. No, Dominic said. I'm trying to make sure someone else doesn't suffer because I didn't act. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, Emma asked, how do we start?
Dominique sat back, studying her.
You already did.
The moment you ran, you made yourself a threat. Mark will come harder now.
But we'll be ready. That afternoon, Dominic took Emma to a secure room on the lower floor. It was nothing like the rest of the house. No windows, steel walls, screens monitoring street cams, encrypted communications. It looked like a military command center.
This is where we control the battlefield, Dominic said.
A tech specialist named Rosa greeted Emma and handed her a tablet. Digital trail, encrypted uploads, emergency broadcast protocols, Rosa said. If anything happens, this device will trigger a data dump to every major news outlet, FBI, Homeland Security. Emma blinked. That's a lot. We don't play small, Rosa said. Dominic nodded toward a screen showing live footage of the NYPD precinct where Mark worked. We have eyes everywhere. The goal is to stay ahead. You're going to be watched. He'll come after you. Not physically, at first, but through manipulation. Through fear. Emma exhaled. That's what he's best at. Dominic looked at her. So be better. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma stood in the garden behind the mansion, watching Lily chase butterflies between hedges. For a moment, she let herself breathe. Dominic joined her. She's strong, he said. She has to be. So do you. Emma turned to him.
You've done terrible things.
I know that.
And I'm not blind.
But I need to know something. He waited.
If he do this, if he stay and fight, will you protect her? No matter what happen to me.
Dominic looked her in the eyes. I would die before I let anything happen to her. There was no hesitation in his voice. Emma nodded slowly. Then let's burn them down. Dominic smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Not cold. Not calculating. Human. We will. But even as they spoke across the city, a man in a small unlit room was watching them on a grainy camera feed.
Mark Collins.
He stared at Emma's face on the screen, jaw clenched, breathing shallow. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. She's with him, he said. Romano has her. And the kid. A pause. Then he added, tell Costello. It's time. And the line went dead. The days that followed passed in a strange kind of tension, quiet on the surface, yet heavy with expectation. Dominic increased security around the estate, doubling guards, reinforcing surveillance, and installing a panic system in Emma and Lily's suite. Every move was calculated. Every visitor screened.
Every call traced.
Emma tried to maintain normalcy for Lily's sake, morning walks in the garden, reading lessons, baking cookies in the vast marble kitchen. But beneath the calm, fear simmered. She could feel it tightening around her like a noose. Mark hadn't made a move yet. That worried Dominic more than an outright attack. He's buying time, Dominic said one evening, pacing his office.
Gathering resources. Calling in favors.
The longer he stays silent, the more dangerous he becomes. Emma sat nearby, watching him with unease. What can we do? Dominic stopped, looking at her. Force his hand. Set bait. You want to use me? I want to use the one thing he can't ignore, the illusion of control. She didn't like it. But she understood it. 2 nights later, the trap was set. Emma arrived at a small cafe in Midtown Manhattan, seated at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance and exits. She wore a simple coat, her hair tucked under a beanie. Dominic's men were everywhere, posing as customers, staff, pedestrians. Her phone was linked to Rose's command center, transmitting everything. The goal wasn't to meet Mark. It was to be seen. To make sure word reached him that she wasn't hiding. He didn't show. But someone else did. A young man, maybe 22, thin, nervous, sat down across from her. You're Emma Carter, he asked. Emma stiffened. Who are you? Name's Jake.
You aide to run et renfort Mark.
I'm not with him anymore. I swear. Emma looked at him, skeptical.
Why come to me?
Because I heard he's coming for you. And he's not coming alone. He's got backers now, serious ones. He's not just trying to bring you back. He's trying to make you disappear. Permanently. Emma's stomach turned. Who's helping him? Jake glanced around, then leaned closer.
Costello second in command.
Guy named Victor Alonso. He's XDA dirty as hell, and he's putting a crew together.
Emma's blood ran cold.
Jake stood abruptly. I shouldn't have come.
Just, be careful.
He's closer than you think. He walked out before she could say another word. Dominic's voice came through the earpiece.
Get back to Scar.
Now. Back at the estate, Rosa pulled up a file on Victor Alonso. Former DEA, dishonorably discharged. 2 years in Colombia. Suspected of laundering millions through Miami real estate.
Nos convictions.
No witnesses. Dominic stared at the screen, then looked at Emma. This changes the game. Emma already knew why. He's federal. Was. But he still has contacts. If he gets involved, this won't be just about Mark or Costello. It'll become political.
Dirty agent, blackmail, cover UPS.
So what do we do? Dominic turned to Rosa. Track every associate of Alonso. Phone records, credit cards, family. I want to know what he had for breakfast yesterday. Emma crossed her arms. You think he's already made a move? I think he's already inside. The words sent a chill down her spine. That night, Emma had trouble sleeping. Lily had fallen asleep quickly, clutching a new storybook Dominic had brought her. The little girl was adjusting better than Emma expected. Dominic was careful around her, never too soft, never too cold. He spoke to her like she was equal. And Lily responded in kind. Emma sat in the chair by the fireplace, staring at the flames. Her thoughts spun, Mark Alonso, the Costellos, Brian's murder, everything she'd ignored for so long, now rushing back like a flood. There was a knock at the door.
Dominique.
He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. I have to tell you something, he said. Emma straightened. What is it? We found a leak. Someone's been feeding information to Alonso. Her heart sank. Who?
Dominique's expression darkened. Vincent.
Emma blinked, stunned.
Vincent, your right hand.
He's been with me for 15 years, Dominic said quietly. But Alonso got to his family. Threatened his daughter. Vincent thought if he gave them intel, only surface-level stuff, he could keep them safe. Emma swallowed hard. What do you want to do?
Dominique hésitated.
I don't know. That admission, more than anything, unsettled her. I trusted him, he said.
With everything. Emma thought for a moment.
Talk to him. Don't kill him yet. Dominic looked at her. She added, if we become them, what are we even fighting for? He nodded once, then left. The next morning, Vincent was gone. No explanation. No farewell. Dominic didn't speak about it. Emma didn't ask. But she saw something new in his eyes that day, loss. Not just of a lieutenant, but of a friend. 2 days later, the storm broke. It started with a breach. 3 of Dominic's security systems went offline at once, an inside job. By the time the team restored control, it was too late. Lily was gone. The estate went into lockdown.
Alarm screamed.
Guards searched the grounds. Helicopters were in the air within 15 minutes. Emma stood in the center of Lily's room, paralyzed. The bed was still warm.
Monsieur Nible lay on the floor.
She didn't cry. Not yet.
Her body wouldn't let her.
Dominic stood in the doorway, jaw clenched, voice low. They took her. Emma turned slowly, her voice like steel. Then bring her back. He didn't hesitate. We will. An hour later, Rosa traced Lily's smartwatch to an abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn.
Dominique assemblait d'estime, 7 men, all armed, all loyal.
Emma stepped into the room. I'm coming. No, Dominic said firmly.
You stay here. She's my doctor.
She's my responsibility.
Emma May sighs.
I trust you. But I need to see her safe.
With my own eyes.
Dominic looked at her for a long moment. Then nodded. Suit up. The warehouse was quiet when they arrived. Too quiet.
Dominique signalait 10 men, spreading out.
Emma stayed close to him, her heart hammering so loudly it drowned out everything else. They moved through the shadows, weapons drawn, until they found the room. Inside, Lily.
Sitting on a cratte, holding Monsieur Nibble, une ure.
But her eyes, wide, unblinking, told the truth. Emma rushed to her. Mommy. She pulled Lily into her arms, sobbing now, finally, holding her like she'd never let go. But the joy was short-lived. Dominic turned toward the hallway, gun raised. It's a trap.
Shot rang out.
Smoke bombs exploded.
Voices shouted in the dark.
Emma clutched Lily, crawling behind cover as chaos erupted around them.
Dominique fought like a man possessed. Silent, brutal, methodical.
His men followed, returning fire, clearing the space. It ended almost as quickly as it began.
Body on the floor. Smoke clearing.
But one figure remained standing.
Victor Alonso.
Smiling. Well played, Romano, he said. You came faster than I expected. Dominic aimed his gun.
Give me a reason not to end this.
Alonso raised his hands, still grinning.
Because I'm not your problem anymore. Washington is. Marquez Gun Federal.
And they're coming, for all of us. He stepped back, into the smoke, and disappeared. Dominic didn't fire. He stood there, breathing hard, gun trembling slightly in his grip. Emma came to his side, Lily in her arms. They won't stop, she said. Dominic didn't answer. But in his eyes, she saw it. War had begun.
The night after the warehouse, Red felt endless.
Rain lashed against the windows of the Romano estate once again, echoing the night Emma had first arrived there. This time, the fear was sharper, more defined. They had survived the ambush, but it had come with a message. Mark wasn't acting alone anymore. He had powerful backing, and now they were all targets. Lily was safe, asleep between layers of protection in a hidden room beneath the house. Rose's team had surrounded the estate with surveillance drones and encrypted barriers. Yet Emma couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring into the storm, the faint reflection of lightning flickering across her pale face. When Dominic entered, she didn't turn. She's okay, he said quietly. She's scared, but she'll be fine. Emma nodded without looking at him. You said it was over once before. It wasn't. Dominic stood beside her, silent for a moment. No, it wasn't. But it will be now. She finally faced him. His face was drawn, weary but resolute. His shirt still had a dark smear of blood at the cuff, but his eyes, those steel-gray eyes, held something steady. A decision. What are you planning? She asked.
The only thing left.
Ending it. By killing him? If necessary.
Emma shook her head.
That's what they do. That's what he does. You can't save us by becoming him.
Dominique's expression hardened.
And if the law won't stop him? If the government protects him? Tell me, Emma, what would you do if it were your child in that van again?
Her voice cracked.
I would do anything. Exactly. Silence stretched between them, heavy with understanding. Dominic turned toward the door. Tomorrow morning, he said, I'll finish this. But I need you and Lily somewhere safe. There's a safe house in Vermont.
Rosa will take you.
Emma grabbed his arm. Don't do this alone. He looked down at her hand, then at her face. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, she said softly.
Don't lose yourself trying to save us.
He hesitated, then brushed his thumb over her knuckles before stepping away. If I don't come back, he murmured, tell Lily she saved me. Then he was gone. The following dawn was gray and heavy. Dominic's convoy moved like a shadow through the city, for SUVs slicing through the fog toward the Hudson docks, Costello territory. Rosa coordinated from the mansion, her voice sharp in his earpiece. Thermal shows multiple hostiles. Alonso's crew is here. So is Mark. I know, Dominic replied. He stepped out of the car, rain soaking his coat instantly, and walked into the warehouse where everything had begun. The air smelled of oil and gunpowder, the metallic tang of violence already lingering. Mark Collins stood waiting in the center of the room, flanked by armed men. His police badge still hung from his belt, an obscene parody of authority. His smile was the same, arrogant, sure, the kind that used to fool everyone. Well, look who crawled out of his marble palace, Mark sneered.
The great Dominique Romano.
I should thank you for taking care of my family for me. Dominic didn't blink. They were never yours.
Mark shrugged.
They were convenient. Emma's smart, but desperate. Easy to manipulate. And the kid, well, you know what they say about supply and demand. Dominic's hand twitched toward his gun.
Watch your mouth. Mark grinned with air.
Oh, hit a nerve, did I?
She call you daddy yet?
She's good at that. Used to do it for me too. The shot came before the sentence finished. Mark staggered, clutching his arm, blood blooming through his sleeve. Dominic's gun stayed trained on him, steady as stone. I don't miss twice, Dominic said coldly.
Mark looked, even through the pain. You think this ends with me? You think you can stop what is coming?
Behind him, Alonzo stepped from the shadows, clapping slowly. He's right, Romano. You kill him, and you'll be next. The Bureau already has your file. The moment you pull that trigger, they'll paint you as the monster. Dominic's jaw clenched. I've been the monster for a long time. Alonzo smiled. Then die like one. The room erupted into chaos.
Guinfir tord through the air.
Dominic's men stormed in from both sides, exchanging fire with Alonzo's mercenaries. The sound was deafening, shouts, bullets, the crash of crates splintering apart. Dominic moved with precision, covering his men, advancing toward Alonzo. Mark tried to crawl toward an exit. Dominic saw him, aimed, and fired again. The bullet caught Mark in the leg, dropping him flat. Alonzo reached for his radio, but Rosa's voice came through every speaker in the room. Federal authorities are en route. We intercepted your signal, Alonzo. You're done.
Alonzo froze, réalisation donning Toulette. Dominique firait dans ce mort.
The shot hit Alonzo in the chest. He fell backward, eyes wide, the smirk fading from his face. Dominic turned toward Mark, bleeding and gasping. You wanted control, Dominic said quietly.
You wanted power.
But all you ever had was fear. Mark glared up at him, sneering even through the pain. You think she'll forgive you for this?
You're no better than me. Dominic raised the gun.
She doesn't have to forgive me. He pulled the trigger. The echo of the shot rolled across the docks like thunder. By the time the sirens arrived, Dominic's men were gone. The scene was clean, guns confiscated, bodies removed. Only Mark Collins and Victor Alonzo remained, both dead, both wearing the same look of disbelief. Rosa made sure the evidence reached the right hands, files linking Costello, Alonzo, and Mark to the trafficking network. Within hours, news networks were flooded with leaked documents. The Romano tapes, they called them. Corruption in law enforcement.
Fédérale collusion.
Human trafficking under the government's nose.
Dominique disappeared.
A week later, the world moved on. Emma and Lily lived quietly in Vermont, in a small cottage surrounded by pine trees and wildflowers. Lily went to school. Emma started working remotely for a trauma recovery center. Life was simple again, ordinary. Sometimes too quiet. Then one morning, a letter arrived.
No return address.
Inside, a single line written in neat handwriting.
Monsters die, Emma.
Men learn. Live for both of us.
DR.
Emma folded the letter, tears stinging her eyes. She pressed it to her chest and looked out the window where Lily was chasing butterflies again, laughter echoing across the field. Months passed.
One crisp autumn morning, a leaf painted the hills in gold and red, Emma drove Lily to school.
On their way back, they stopped by a cafe. The news on the TV showed headlines about reform in the NYPD, arrests in Miami, and a mysterious whistleblower known only as the Ghost of the Hudson. Emma smiled faintly. She knew. That night, after putting Lily to bed, she walked outside. The sky was full of stars, sharp and clear. Somewhere far away, she imagined him looking at the same sky, still watching, still protecting. She whispered into the cold air, "Thank you." Behind her, in the trees, a car engine purred softly to life, headlights flashing once before fading down the road. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. For the first time in years, Emma Cotter felt truly safe. And Dominic Romano, somewhere in the distance, finally felt human again. The storm had ended. And what remained was not fear, not vengeance, but the quiet, steady rhythm of redemption.